First of all, I want to thank the organizing committee, particularly the president, for allowing us to do this and for insisting actually that we do it, which thank you. And my co-moderator, Dr. Siva, it is all his fault. He really, we were at the college meeting and he said, hey, why don't you do this? You may publish 3 books. Why don't you do a workshop or a symposium or something?
I love it.
So, sometimes it only takes just an idea and it becomes a reality. So it's a great pleasure for me to be here with some spectacular speakers, actually. Because we are running late, I'm not going to go through CVs of each of the speakers, but just needless to say that, and it's not in any particular order, Dr. Hart, he's world-renowned trauma surgeon and editor and a very famous guy who graciously agreed to come here. And both he and I are on our way to Europe, to a European meeting actually, so we have to leave tomorrow and go to the European Society for Trauma and Emergency Congress. Dr. Grusner, a great friend of mine, used to be my boss. Transplant surgeon, former chairman of the Department of Surgery in Tucson and later at SUNY, downtown, and really world-renowned transplant surgeon with many first this and first that, and so he'll do that. Then we have Christopher Sprague. Christopher and both Dr. Grusner and I have worked with him on many projects. I have to admit that he's replacing the previous gentlemen who were working with us has been a day and night change. Actually, I can pick up the phone and call him and said, well, can you do this? Can you do this? Change this? It's awesome. All right. So before it gets too late, I will introduce Christopher King to come and give his first talk.
Thank you very much, Dr. Latifi, for the invitation and a very warm introduction. I understand we have a time situation here, so I will try to go as quickly as I can. You tend to speak fast, so I apologize ahead of time. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the session. My name is Christopher Sprague. I'm executive editor in the Clinical Medicine Books division of Springer Nature. No relation, by the way, Springer, not at all. In my 13 years with the company, my areas of acquisition have included orthopedics, sports medicine, endocrinology, and reproductive medicine. I now acquire surgery and neurosurgery. I still acquire orthopedics as well, but other areas mentioned are now managed by other editors. Before I go much further, I want to state that I am not intending to use this opportunity to promote Springer as a publisher per se, nor to downplay other publishers in the space. Rather, I want to share my perspective on the book publishing process from my own experience. To that end, I aim to comment more generally on the process overall, which I tend to think is similar across most publishing companies. That being said, there may be parts of the presentation that are more directly related to Springer specifically, and all of the examples of books I share were understandably pointed to Springer publications. Thank you. Here's the overview of the topics I want to cover today. First, by way of context, I'd like to share a brief overview of Springer and its organization, including how I fit into it. Second, I'd like to discuss some benefits that adhere to book publication. The third and largest section will provide an outline of the steps in publishing a book from conception to publication. Last, I will share some books from our portfolio as examples of the types of books we publish. I will then open up the floor for any questions. Springer is an experienced publisher with over 100 years of expertise in the field. A leading global scientific, technical, and medical publisher, providing researchers in academia, academic libraries, scientific institutions, and corporate research and development companies with state-of-the-art content through a wide range of information products and services. In 2015, Springer merged with Nature Publishing Group to become Springer Nature. Springer Nature as a whole is the largest academic publisher in the world by volume, with one of the strongest collections of books in science, technology, and medicine, as well as humanities and social sciences through our fall grade division. We publish around 13,000 new books each year in all areas. To date, we have upwards of 300,000 books available to readers in our web stores and content platforms. As a book publisher, we strive to be innovative in how we publish and offer all of our books in electronic format, as well as print. As a global publisher, Springer has offices and acquisitions editors in locations worldwide. In the clinical medicine group, we therefore arrange our acquisitions based on geographical region. In other words, since I am based here in the United States, I acquire surgery titles and with authors and editors in the U.S. and Canada. And colleagues of mine in other locations acquire surgery titles with authors and editors in Europe, respectively. As an example, you can see here a cross-section of our global publishing unit to get a sense of the coverage within the area of surgery, general surgery alone. Many other editors at various levels acquire another areas across the world as well. So these are all editors from across the world that acquire just surgery. So depending on where you are in the world, where you're based in the world, you may work with one of these people as opposed to working with myself if you want to pursue the book. A significant benefit of book publishing is that it's not only an important way to contribute to your clinical field, but in the case of an edited volume, it's also a great opportunity to expand your professional network and connect with your community of colleagues both home and abroad. With an edited volume, which is the far greater proportion of the books we publish, you will collaborate with existing or new colleagues, and when the book is published, the result will be that you reach readers within your own and far wider communities, often on a global scale. This, in turn, allows you to build your reputation within your field, and perhaps even within other allied clinical communities, and to accelerate your career in general. I'm often asked if books still matter. Aside from my own vested interest in them still mattering, I believe the answer is a resounding yes. Primary literature in the form of journal articles and novel research is still the basis for expanding these knowledge fields, and review articles that provide sound summaries are of likewise of intrinsic value. However, I think that the expansive nature of the book, its ability to aggregate, synthesize, and expand the content in ways that journal articles simply cannot given the format, is its winning characteristic, bringing together the best information, text, figures, and more, and presenting it with a clear through line. And while books in hard copy may be used less, being purchased less, we see increased access to the content in other ways as online. A book then is more than its binding, though I like that as well. The book is the idea between them. The first step in the book publishing process involves what I suspect everyone here today already has, an idea. You might have an idea for an authored monograph focused on your perspective on the diagnosis and treatment of a particular disorder or the benefits of certain surgical procedure. The idea might be for a review volume or focused on how a field has developed in advance, consisting of chapters written by leading experts and invited contributors. It may be a case-based title, authored or edited, that reviews a wide range of cases in the diagnostic and treatment guidelines in that area in an attempt to elucidate narrower and more finely tuned best practices. Or you may have an idea for a question and answer based board review book, or for a textbook designed to enhance clinical knowledge and skills for medical students or residents and fellows. It could also be a major reference work that collects all of the most significant literature on a topic into one large, comprehensive volume with chapters written by international experts. Or it could be an atlas designed to make use of many unique images you have collected over the years. With all these different ideas, the main aims of the book will always be to fill a gap in the current literature, to address an unmet need or cutting-edge development, and to offer information that advances the knowledge base of the field. The second step of the publishing process is to formalize your idea into a written proposal. Once your idea has reached the point where you feel it can be codified on paper, contact an acquisitions editor, such as myself, for some initial thoughts. If it sounds good, you'll be sent either a proposal form template or a link to an online platform where you can submit the proposal in your time. When putting it together, there are some key points to keep in mind to ensure you compile a strong proposal for evaluation, all of which are called out for you on either the template form or in the online form. First, prepare a summary of the need and plan for the book, sometimes called the aims and scope. Make a good case for why the book is needed and what the general plan for the work is. We need to know what a clinician or trainee would gain from reading your book. Let us know how it fills a gap, and identify some other key titles on the topic and how yours will differ. Second, identify the audience for the book. As an academic publisher, the book should really be for someone in professional practice or in an academic setting as a graduate student or as a professor. In clinical medicine, then, our main audience is academic physicians and surgeons, community-based physicians and clinicians like NPs and PAs, or trainees in medical school or at an academic medical center. Third, include a tentative title and table of contents. Providing the names and contact information for a few colleagues who can function as peer reviewers is also helpful. Fourth, provide approximations of how many pages you think the book will be wood-printed, and how you will structure the book, and whether and how many tables of figures or video clips you like to include. Finally, provide a realistic timeline for the submission of the completed manuscript, with 1 year being the usual time frame from contracting to time of delivery. Addressing these points will aid in ensuring that the internal and external peer review of your proposal is efficient and accurate. For some of these items, like the page and figure counts, best guesses are acceptable. We usually rely on their experience to help determine these kinds of details based on the table of contents, and they are meant as approximation elements. The third step in the process begins once you've completed and submitted your proposal, either via the template or the online platform. The acquisitions editor will confirm receipt and let you know if any further information is needed, and then, provided the proposal is approved to go forward by the AE, again, AE is short for acquisitions editor, he or she will conduct an external, single-blind peer review of your proposal. The peer review process is likely similar to what you experienced when submitting journal articles. The proposal will be shared with at least 2 experts in the field, and the reviewers will be asked to share their feedback in a number of areas, including whether there is need for the book, their thoughts on the plan you have crafted, whether the aims and scope and target audience make sense, and whether the proposed table of contents is logically structured and complete. The peer reviewers, along with their AE, may have suggestions for ways your proposal can be improved, and may ask for revisions or suggestions. Once the proposal is accepted, we will put together a publishing agreement, a contract. If the terms are acceptable and the agreement is circulated and fully executed, we will assign the project to a production editor, a PE, who communicates closely with the AE and will work with you specifically to realize the development of your manuscript. Now comes the easy part, writing the book. As just mentioned, a PE, sometimes also referred to as a project or project coordinator editor, will be brought on board to assist in the development and finalization of the manuscript and to generally keep things on schedule. They perform a range of tasks, sharing manuscript guidelines with you and your co-authors, answering questions about graphics and permissions, sending reminders about deadlines and chapter orders, reviewing submitted chapters to ensure they are complete in relation to all key and standard elements needed to eventually accept the manuscript as complete from our end. Even with the PE working with you, and with your best efforts, it's common, I might even say expected, that delays will occur during this process, especially in larger edited volumes. We are used to working with surgeons and clinicians and are fully aware that book and chapter writing are not your main priorities. This is why we always set extensive time frames for manuscript creation and are happy to provide extensions to this time frame as needed and as is sensible. For edited books especially, the phrase "like herding cats" is very appropriate when describing the process of managing a bevy of chapter authors and review dates. Suffice to say that we get it and we make adjustments accordingly. For edited works, which again are the vast majority of our books, the book's editor is essentially the peer reviewer. Each chapter draft should be reviewed for content accuracy and returned to the author for any suggested revisions before coming to us as final. The PE can assist with this in manuscript work, but it's strongly preferred that what we receive is as final as it can be from the book editor's perspective. We then give it our own review from the publisher's perspective, which is mainly to ensure it is production ready. We follow up as needed with all involved, of course. The AE will also have a look at the manuscript at the time to ensure it meets more or less the expectations for the book as discussed. Once all looks good from all ends, any necessary revisions have been carried out and approved, confirmation permissions have been obtained for reuse figures and data, figures and captions aligned, things like that, your manuscript can be formally accepted. The final details of your book, such as the title, descriptive copy for the back cover and website, and your author details are sent for confirmation so that the ISBN can be assigned and the book can move formally into production. The book's cover is then created and shared for review and approval. In the fifth step of the book publication process, the production team will carefully turn your manuscript into a complete book, a process that runs 5 to 6 months end-to-end usually. It begins with the copy editing and typesetting of the submitted files. Chapter authors will receive a proof copy for review and to address any last-minute queries. Once those are all submitted and the corrections carried out, they are combined into a full book proof with front and back matter added for review by the book editor. After you approve the full proofs, your book will finally be published in print, and as an ebook, so readers have the freedom to read and work with your book in all possible formats. Once the book is published, you'll want to share your work with global research communities across many different channels. For most publishers, your book will have its own dedicated web page with descriptive copy, table of contents, and other important information, as well as ordering details. For Springer in particular, it will also be available in libraries and institutions worldwide via Springer Link, our content platform that has over 50 million users at more than 10,000 institutions worldwide. In addition to availability on the publisher's website, your book will also be distributed worldwide by third parties such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Bookstore, Google Bookstore, and other online book selling retailers. Now that I've provided an overview of the publishing process in general, I want to give you a sense of the kind of books that exist. It's quite likely that there's a book type to fit every read and new idea you may have. Speaking broadly, we aim to publish titles that communicate evidence-based clinical practice information that deepens a clinician's or surgeon's fundamental understanding of medicine, and most importantly, also enables them to improve their clinical knowledge and skills so they can offer their patients state-of-the-art best practice, thereby leading to better patient outcomes. I displayed 3 titles here from the field of surgery as examples, 2 of which were edited by heavyweights in their respective areas, but leave me and percent. I've also included the AJCC manual, now in its 8th edition, as an example of a book co-published with a prominent professional organization. We have others as well, including the long-standing series of safety manuals. As you can see here, our book product types display a great range of sizes and formats, including authored monographs and edited contributed volumes, textbooks geared toward medical trainees of various levels, including board review titles, illustrated atlases that offer pictorial-based learning, voluminous, comprehensive major reference works, and smaller handbooks and pocket guides. We have the option to publish any of these book types as open access as well, where they'll be freely available to the world once published and free of charge. I'll now briefly cover each of the product types so you can refine an idea you might have for a book project. Monographs are books that focus on a single, often narrow topic and are typically written by one or more authors. It is likely that less than 10% of the titles we publish each year are authored monographs. The reason being that, as you know, it's hard as a busy physician to carve out time to write a book fully on your own. The majority of the books we publish are contributed volumes, the mainstay of our portfolio, in which one or more editors propose a book to us of multiple chapters on a given topic, and then invite colleagues to author the chapters. The page range of monographs and contributed volumes varies greatly, but in general they tend to be about 250 to 450 pages. We publish a healthy number of textbooks and study guides every year. As noted earlier, these are books aimed at medical students, residents, and fellows mainly. We also publish a wide range of exam-oriented titles to help trainees and practicing physicians prepare for board certification or recertification exams in various clinical and surgical specialties. These types of books generally include a range of useful learning features such as golden learning objectives, chapter summaries, and post-chapter questions to reinforce learning retention, checklists, sidebar boxes, video links, and other pedagogical elements. As you might expect, atlases are heavily focused on images, particularly scans, photos, figures, charts, and graphs, and often include only brief, limited text captions to explain the image or the issues around the image. If your idea is heavily image-oriented, this might be an advantageous book form to choose. Our major reference works program consists of books that are large, comprehensive resources usually covering a subject globally. They offer a wealth of foundational knowledge in a specific subject, and are ideal for anybody looking for a one-stop reference work covering all aspects of a particular field. The MRW program operates slightly differently from the rest of our book program in terms of manuscript development and production. Once the MRW is short for major reference work. Once it is published online, authors can go in and update their chapters at any time. So in that sense, the work can easily be made up to date online. And because of that feature, we describe these large books as living references, and then it's able to grow and change at any point in the world. As you may be aware, open access is a rapidly growing part of the scientific literature on the journal side, but it's also growing on the book side, albeit more slowly, as volume authors and editors find more funding opportunities, finding more funding opportunities, and learn about major advantages of open access to increase discoverability and use of a book worldwide. The online usage of these titles is usually 5 to 10 times higher than a standard non-open access book, and we can publish all of the book book types previously mentioned in open access. In addition to our standalone titles, we also publish many book series in fields like cardiology, endocrinology, neurology, and so on. These titles tend to be books conceptualized by a series editor, who then invites colleagues to become volume editors and develop books on that topic. In addition, series editors sometimes receive requests directly to publish a book in his or her own series. Many thanks for allowing me to provide this publishing overview. I know there's a lot to cover and to digest, so hopefully these slides will be made to you, available to you upon request afterwards. I'd like to open up the floor to questions, unless we're doing that at the end, I'm not sure. I'd like to open the floor up to questions you might have about anything I discussed. I also have business cards and you're welcome to take, and I'm happy to speak with anybody separately and read directly to my colleagues as necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Excellent opening for the session. Next, we're going to bring the head of leaders, Dr. Rifat Latifi. Dr. Latifi is going to talk about writing, editing, and publishing books. The author / editor's perspective. Dr. Latifi is currently at Arizona and Tucson Medical Center. He's a professor of surgery and trauma and acute care surgeon with a lot of leadership activities. The only surgeon here who was a minister of health of Kosovo and director of Department of Surgery at Westchester Medical Center and chairman and professor at New York Medical College. More importantly, he used to be a journalist, and he's a voracious writer. He has 21 books under his name, so I have to learn from him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and it's all your fault that we are here tonight. We would have come in happy hour and have a drink by now. So, thanks again. And Christopher, I'm sorry I called you King. It's Springer. Spring song. There you go. Thank you. How do I get the microphone?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, while we get that settled down, we'll get Dr. Bruce here. Next, we're going to have Dr. Rita Brusner, who is going to be talking on the topic that is publishing surgery still worthwhile. He's a professor and former chairman of State University of New York, at SUNY Downstate. He's a national renowned surgeon, clinical innovator, a prolific academic and an educator, and he's a successful history department chair, and he most recently served as chair of surgery at University of Arizona and later as chief of transplant at the SUNY Upstate Medical Center. So a lot of people from New York and Upstate Medical Center. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and it's always warming to get credit from Harvard Medical School. Let me just see if I can bring up my talk. Oh, I see. I should be able to get into there. Yeah, right there. So that's one there. Where is my mouse? You can see the mouse. Well, the topic I was asked to talk about is publishing surgery still worthwhile? Short answer is yes. First reason is dissemination of knowledge, which is an altruistic reason. And the second one is the legacy. Very selfish. Who of you is interested in legacy? A name after you have a long line. Very good. So I will make the point over the next few minutes, and it will be very interactive, showing you that titles, positions, directorships, presidencies come and go. What remains is the written word. Make no mistake, if you don't publish it, it has never happened. And don't go back to someone and say 20 years later, oh, I did it 20 years before you did it. Doesn't happen. So let me start with my talk then. If I can. How do I go back? Now I'm back, huh? I have to be careful here what I'm doing. I'm going to start with the first slide again. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go one further back. So how do I go back? Okay, good. So, who happens to know this gentleman? You are absolutely spot on. This is Christian Albert Theodore Devos. Who happens to know what his position and title was? I'm not surprised, but enter. Okay, good. So, no one knows what the position and title was. Here it is. He was chairman and professor of surgery at the University of Vienna. So this is not why we remember him. We remember him what is on the right side. Clinical surgery, published at the end of the 19th century, where he described his two famous procedures, the Roth 1 and the Roth 2. And he published it in English, despite the fact that he was German-speaking. Very unusual at the time. Germany, before the war, was actually had a history of great scientists, physicians, and so forth. But he published it in English, and I will get back to that. Who is this? Anyone? So I show you, you all will know. This is Alan Oldfather Whipple. Who happens to know his position and title? Very good, here we go. Chairman, Professor of Surgery at Columbia. What do we remember him though for? For that paper on the left side. Treatment of cancer of the ampulla of bladder. Because he introduced the partial routing of pancreatectomy. Now the opposite. This is very difficult. Who is this? The German surgeon, actually the son-in-law of Jan Mikulich, from Heike Mikulich. Now this is Walter Kausch. So since you didn't recognize him, you would know what his position and title was. He happens to be the chairman at a small city hospital in Germany. What did he do? 25 years before Whipple, he described the partial duodenal pancreatectomy. 25 years before Whipple. He published it in a small German journal, in German. Was never disseminated. War broke out, people forgot about it. This was the consequence. A book written about him and others, Genius Without Fame. So he did the procedure 25 years before Whipple. It's called the Whipple procedure. If you go to the German-speaking countries, sometimes they say the Whipple Couch procedure, Couch-Whipple procedure, but the bottom line is, Couch is long, Couch. Now, frequently, residents and faculty ask me, how important is quality or quantity when you publish? Quantity is everything. Who happens to know this person is? This is not a surgeon. Close, but not correct. This is for example Bloomberg, Barry Bloomberg. He received the Nobel Prize, Medicine, Physiology in 1976 for his discovery of the hepatitis B virus. And it was his first publication on that topic that gave him the Nobel Prize. First publication, and he wrote the Nobel Prize. Okay, so I'm done with my interactive session. I hope you enjoyed that at least a little bit. And I'll move forward to the second portion. Why should we publish? Now, obviously, the days of divine inspiration, writing with ink and feather and permanent are long gone. These are the reasons why we publish. The primary mode of disseminating the knowledge and advancements very often certain techniques, sometimes even more important than outcomes. The third committee reviews, that is us, reviews, scrutinizes, adopts evidence-based practices and establishes gold standards of care and best practices that are shared amongst our peers, insurance carriers, and so forth and so forth. But all of that is done to improve quality and safety of surgical patients. And the times of incunabula are long gone. We have now companies that help our residents and students learn how to write surgical articles for publication. And again, it's for the dissemination of materials for our surgical trainees and for promoting continuous learning and, obviously, for worldwide dissemination of our knowledge. Now, there are two caveats to it, and they're important. Employer support may be lacking. Make no mistake, if you happen to work at an academic institution, the dean may say, oh, great paper, great journal you publish. The CEO of the hospital can tell that for you in that regard. But if you write 100 papers, if you're 10 papers, one paper or no paper, doesn't matter to him. For him, it's only important that you bring in the RVUs that you're required to bring in. So, particularly on the hospital and the health system side, it really doesn't matter what you do in that regard in your free time. And, make no mistake, this is changing, rapidly changing. Costs may become prohibitive. Just look at your own institutions. I mean, are you going to be paid for attending meetings? I mean, that is dwindling. And the same is true for publications. I'm old enough to say when I published my first paper, the only money that I had to pay was when I ordered some reprints. Now you have to pay not only to get it published, but you also have to pay a premium when you want to publish it online, anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000. So those are the caveats, and those are two important issues nowadays, why people, are reluctant to publish anymore. So another reason is that a strong publication record is often required for surgical directorships and mid-level or senior leadership positions, not only at academic institutions, but also in hospitals and in health system in general. But by and large, it's an indicator of an individual's research achievements, and it enables career progression, including academic appointments and sometimes grant funding. Now, what is important as you progress as a publisher and a scientific research surgeon is not to forget your beginnings. There has always been a mentor. I remember the first paper that I wrote, I was still a medical student in the probably 1970s or so. My then mentor looked at my paper and he said, Gersner, this is rubbish, it's prose. Write like a scientific person. And you know what? I was devastated at the time, but I took it at heart. And it really helped. The other people that you should not forget about are the many means that help you making a publication possible. From students to residents to junior faculty. And as you climb the ladder and you reap the awards, keep that one feature that's important to a true surgical scientist, humility. Don't forget about your mentor, don't forget about the team. So now, in the third part of this talk, I'm just talking about what, where, and when to publish. We don't really know exactly how many surgical publications are published per year. But a study in 2021 by Comish et al. About 16,000 articles in the 4 leading surgical journals. And they looked at 3 years each over 4 decades. 3 years each over 4 decades. They found that, and that's not, comes to no surprise, that there was a median increase of about 3 or 4% per decade in the number of publications. But what it also showed on the clinical side, while they saw an increase in surgical oncology and surgical application publications, they saw a decrease in general surgery, acute care surgery, and vascular surgery. But even more important is that our basic science publications decreased from 16% to 4%. Now, surgery, particularly from the 1950s onwards to the 1970s, where many of the procedures that are now standardized were developed, were only possible because the surgeon saw a problem at the bedside, took it to the lab, and then brought, hopefully, a solution back to the bedside. If we give up on that, on basic science research, we are just considered plumber. And I remember when I went into transplantation, it was considered cutting edge of medicine. No, it's no longer. It's just, gold standards are there. Cutting edge is now genetics and so forth. So, we have to make sure that our academic departments and our academic institutions do not forget about the fact that research is and remains important. A similar paper was published by the British Journal of Surgery just a couple of years back, looking at 17 journals, also 2 years over 2 decades. And what they found is that, yes, America is still the #1 in publications. Just look at the numbers. On the left side, 600, on the right side, almost 900 papers. But look at the countries underneath. On the left side, look at Denmark in 4th position. Denmark has a population of 6 million. 1/50th or 1/60th of what we have. Now multiply their publications with a factor of 60, and then compare to what we are doing. On the right side, look at the Netherlands, 18 million, about a 20th of what we are. And how many papers they would publish if we extrapolated that. So it's important not to look down on other countries. On the contrary, some very small European countries are more prolific when it comes to publication than we are. So what to publish? So the cream of the crop are first. It's almost impossible to describe a truly new surgical procedure anymore. What we very often see as first are modifications, introduction of minimal invasive, laparoscopic, robotic surgeries that used to be done openly, but truly first are absolutely rare. The second in the ranking are probably the original basic science research. And as I mentioned, what is detrimental to our field is that we have scaled back. And that is wrong. It's wrong for our students, wrong for the residents, wrong for people to come into surgery. Because, people love doing research and they're enticed by what they're seeing. New ideas, thinking outside of the box. Doesn't happen. So what we usually focus on, what we think, the best types of publications are randomized clinical trials, particularly the NIH sponsored, meta-analyses and systemic reviews, and large clinical studies. And then at the end of the list are case reports and book chapters. And some people actually look down on those. And that's not what should be done. Textbooks are there for a reason. You go there in the evening and you read them. Maybe an internist, during regular hour, may go back to his office and open the textbook and find what he needs. A surgeon can't do that in the operating room. But case reports, to look down on case reports is very dangerous. I give you a good example from my own field of expertise, hepatobiliary transplant surgery. Tom Starzl, some 40-50 years ago, published the first case of a liver transplant, case report, that opened the field, the entire field, for liver, not only liver transplantation, but transplantation in itself. So don't look down on case reports. They have the value. Now I asked my AI co-pilot, does it really matter? And the answer is, does anything really matter? We all end up in the same place. After all, what's left is the Wikipedia entry. And the Wikipedia entry is determined by Google Scholar. And I'll get to that in a second. So where to publish? So apologize for that slide, and obviously you don't have to read it. But these are the most reputed journals in medicine, not in surgery, in medicine. On the left side, you see the Journal Citation Index by Clerical. On the right side, the Google Scholar. And they're by and large the same. I mean, the front runners are, of course, Nature, Science, New England Journal, Lancet, and so forth. And obviously, I have to apologize for a bad slide because, I mean, that's usually what happens. And I hope not everyone is affected by it. Unfortunately, the next slide is not any better than the previous slide was. But this shows the journals in surgery. Again, on the right side, Journal Citation Index. On the left side and on the right side, the Google Scholar. Again, the same protagonists. I mean, you have Annals of Surgery, you have JAMA, you have British Journal of Surgery, and so forth. Now, very often I'm asked, is it important where to publish? Yes, the impact factor is important, but it's primarily important for the journal. It's not necessarily important for you, because, and I hope no one from Australia is here, say you want to publish in the Southern Tasmanian Surgical Journal. As long as the Southern Tasmanian Surgical Journal has access to the internet and is listed on the web, someone putting your name in or the topic you wrote about, it will come up. So don't be deterred if the New England Journal of Medicine doesn't accept your paper. Yes, I mean, the dean will congratulate you, but the bottom line is, if it's a good paper, I mean, people will find it. And the gold standard that we used for the last 2 years, PubMed, I mean, has never opened up to open access journals. And I always thought this is a mistake, because if you go into Google Scholar these days, you actually get better and more information than you get at PubMed. Now, what are the publication metrics for surgeons is the last portion of my talk. So Google Scholar, as I mentioned, has become the most commonly used standard to judge someone's publication record. So there is the H index. So let's say you have an H index of 50. What does that mean? That means that you have at least 50 publications with at least 50 citations. So the higher the H index, the more recognized you are in your field. Then there's the citation count. If you are quoted 20,000 times, 30,000 times, or whatever, you'll probably make it. And then there's the I-10 index, which indicates whether you're still active over the last 10 years, because that accrues the numbers over the last 10 years. So, I mean, Google initially was advertising that they help us to boost our citations. But in the end, we really have become Google scholars. What is the impact of the H index on careers? Again, my AI co-pilot provided the answer. According to available data, the average Google Scholar H index for search is around 10 to 15, with a median closer to 10. You can go into Google Scholar, give your name in, and I mean, once you're listed, it comes up, it can be made public, it can stay private, whatever you want to. But it will tell you what your H index is, what the number of citations, and everything else that I just mentioned. And there is a significant variation according to the level in academic institution. And I don't have the data for surgeon, but this is for orthopedic surgery. And it shows the chairman usually has the most or highest H index, followed by the full professor, and the assistant professor has the lowest. So then finally, I asked again my AI companion, what are alternatives to publishing? And listen to this. Surgeons are increasingly publishing more content in video format on social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram, utilizing this avenue to share education, information, surgeon techniques, and patient experiences, which allows for wider reach and engagement compared to traditional scientific publications alone. Now, I read that, and I wasn't quite happy. And there's another response. Surgeons that are only publishing in video format and or on social media platforms may get applause and recognition, primarily by the non-surgical public, but less so from their peers, because publishing, as you all know, is hard, but it reaches academic awards. And this response is not AI, it's 100% human, created by your truly. So at the end, last slide, like the first one, publishing surgery worthwhile. And I know some of my my slides were exhaustive and comprehensive, and as you're looking for the next talk, I don't want you to leave answering this question, is publishing surgery still worthwhile, other than saying yes, and with a resounding yes. And I'll stop here. I thank the International College for the invitation, and you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Entertaining and informative. So, awesome talk. Now we're going to get main speaker, Dr. Roti. Perfect.
The reason that happened because I did not check all the instruments in the operating room till we had it. So if I had done that, I would have checked if it's on the computer on the screen, but I didn't do that. So this is a lesson. You cannot ask in the middle of the operation when you're really tired, give me tell me I need to stop the bleeding. So we should have it ready.
Checklist, absolutely. Thank you very much. I certainly had fun doing this together, putting it together. I have no conflict of interest, but I do want to recognize this gentleman. Probably some of you have heard of him. Ron Landis gave me the first opportunity to write a book, to edit a book, and I did that when I was an intern at Cleveland Clinic. Ron had a publishing company, R.G. Landis. He just sold it in 2014, and I have published a lot with him. I'm very grateful to him, and he's really, truly a visionary guy. So Dr. Brudner has gone extensively why it should be published. I am going to just put it in a personal level. You fulfill your passion, and I happen to be, well, when I was a medical student, I was a journalist. That's how I got myself through education. Because my family, although the school was for free, couldn't even pay my dorm and stuff. So, and I love writing anyway. You advance your own skills, actually, when you write. There was a gentleman who asked me once to write a book chapter, and I asked him what chapters you could not sell to anyone else, so you want to give it to me. And he was nucleotides and nucleosides. I said, I'll take that then. And then he called me, he told me, I said, I was a 30-year resident, and I had worked with Dr. Dubik, as you're going to see in a second. So why did you pick that? I'm really curious.